recently found what seems to be a link between the suppression of creativity and environmentalism. I was told about a speech on a TED Talk, actually, that you can find on YouTube, about how creativity is allegedly destroyed in the school system, how we discourage children from being creative. At the end of this speech, which had got a standing ovation and 14 million plus views so far, or just before it, the speaker talks about how we can have a new ecology based on supposed creativity, where we can bring up children who should have people like Rachel Carson and Al Gore as their role models in order to supposedly save the world. And there are some very strange statements made in this. The whole idea of a silent spring, the title of Rachel Carson's movement founding book, is one that's based on contempt for human singing. There is the idea that if we don't stop the way we're using pesticides, there will be no birds and singing and no bees humming, period. This will result in a silent spring. This completely ignores the singing capacity of humans and their ability to make noise and contribute to the beauty of the world. And it seems to me that this is where a lot of our mass propagandists or people who are essentially weaponizing art come from. They come from a system which denigrates human creative ability, and which says that anything a human does isn't significant in art. And if you want to have a job, you've got to find a way to weaponize your art, because that's the only thing that will be paid for. There is this, starting out in the speech, it says, we shouldn't suppress children's creativity, but if you're using your art only to destroy things, that is a suppression of creativity, and something I think you can see even in Rachel Carson's life. She was described as someone who was a practical scientist and yet had the sensitivity of a poet. This is sad, of course, because poets are virtually the #1 art form that you have trouble making money at. They're pretty much the lowest of the low on the artistic ladder, which is talked about in the TED Talk. And so Rachel Carson got to a point where she was already successful as a writer. For some reason, she decided she was going to write this polemic against pesticides. And it took, if correlation is related to causation, may not be the case, but it coincided with a dramatic decrease in her own health. And she died 2 years after Silent Spring was put out, although she was only 57. It was certainly a catastrophic effect on her, apparently, if not even to mention all the possible effects for which she's been blamed afterwards. And certainly, if she was an inspiration to Al Gore, then there's a movement that's been around, that was put in place that banned things that would help humans. And now we're even at the stage of banning and demonizing rain, of all things. So there's this link. If this is true, that children's creativity is being destroyed in schools, then that's one of the ways we're getting this silence, this loss of voice that occurs in young children. Because singing is a creative act. Learning how to sing the notes and maintain them is a creative act, because everybody has a different set of connections that we have in our minds that we need to make in order to put ourselves in the right frame of mind to hit these high notes that children can typically do without instruction. But that's lost. Is it because of the school system? I think this talk would support that notion, particularly at the end, where you have some truly outrageous statements made. Ones that if we lost all the insects on the earth, 50 years later all life would die out. But if we lost all the peoples on the earth, 50 years later all life would flourish. Well, all life can't flourish because it would include human life. So not all life has flourished if you wipe out all the people. It's simply not true. And it's a incredibly Orwellian doublethink sort of statement to say that.